There was a forest on the outskirts of town that everyone avoided. Locals called it the Whispering Woods. It wasn't marked on any map, and no one knew exactly where it began or ended. But everyone knew the stories, the tales of people who ventured in and never came out, of strange sounds and shadows that seemed to follow you just out of sight. It started as a dare. Jack, always the thrill-seeker, bet his friends he could spend an entire night in the Whispering Woods. He wasn't afraid of ghost stories or local legends. To him it was all just nonsense, old tales meant to scare children. So one Friday evening, armed with a flashlight and his phone, Jack set out to prove everyone wrong. The woods were denser than he expected. The trees, tall and ancient, seemed to close in on him the deeper he went. The air was thick, heavy with a musty smell that made it hard to breathe. As he walked, the light from his flashlight seemed to struggle against the darkness, barely illuminating the path ahead. After about an hour, he found a small clearing and decided it was as good a spot as any to set up camp. He gathered some wood for a fire, but every time he tried to light it, the matches fizzled out. Frustrated, he gave up and settled against a tree, pulling out his phone to check the time. No signal. Typical. As the night wore on, the forest grew eerily silent. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just an oppressive, unnatural stillness. Then, just as Jack was starting to drift off, he heard it, a faint whisper, almost like a breeze but with words. He couldn't make out what it was saying, but it seemed to be coming from deeper in the woods. Curiosity got the better of him. He stood up, shining his flashlight in the direction of the sound. The whispering grew louder, but it was still just beyond his understanding, like a conversation he wasn't meant to hear. He started walking toward it, drawn in by the inexplicable urge to know what was being said. The deeper he went, the louder the whispers became, until they surrounded him, coming from all directions. His flashlight began to flicker, casting eerie shadows that twisted and danced around him. Panic set in, but he kept moving, determined to find the source. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way and he tumbled down a steep slope, landing hard at the bottom. His flashlight shattered on impact, leaving him in total darkness. The whispers stopped abruptly, replaced by a deafening silence. Jack scrambled to his feet, trying to get his bearings, but the darkness was absolute. Then he saw it, a faint glow coming from a massive tree in the center of a small clearing. The tree was ancient, its bark twisted and gnarled, with roots that snaked across the ground like grasping fingers. The glow seemed to emanate from within the tree itself, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Against his better judgment, Jack approached the tree. As he got closer, he noticed something strange. Carved into the bark were hundreds of names, some faded with age, others fresh as if they had been etched just moments before. And there, near the base of the tree, was his name, glowing faintly in the dim light. Before he could react, the ground around the tree began to tremble, and the roots sprang to life, wrapping around his ankles and pulling him towards the tree. He struggled, but the roots were impossibly strong, dragging him closer and closer to the pulsating trunk. The whispers returned, louder now, filling his head with a cacophony of voices. They were speaking directly to him, and now he understood. The tree was hungry and it fed on fear. The names carved into its bark were the souls it had claimed, and Jack was about to become one of them. As the roots pulled him into the tree, the last thing Jack saw was his name, glowing brighter than ever before everything went dark. The next morning, his friends found his phone at the edge of the woods, but there was no sign of Jack. The Whispering Woods had claimed another victim, and the tree stood silently, waiting for the next foolish soul to wander too close. If you listen closely on a still night, you might hear the whispers of those it has taken, warning you to stay away, but by then it's already too late.